In this video lesson, we are going to have a look at the concept of atmospheric pressure, or simply known as air pressure. A simple definition for air pressure is that it is the weight or the force of the atmosphere pushing down onto the Earth's surface. Remember that the atmosphere is made up of different gas molecules, and each of these molecules have a weight. Their combined weight thus pushes down and applies a force onto the Earth's surface, and this is known as air pressure. Good examples of air being able to exert a weight or a force: you would experience this when trying to run into the wind. You are naturally slowed down because the air is applying pressure to your body, as well as inflating a tire. When air is put inside the tire, that air applies pressure to the inside of that tire, and therefore the tire becomes inflated. Whether the air pressure is going to be high or low depends on a number of factors. Two such factors would be the movement of air, called dynamic pressure, or temperature, called thermal pressure. In the case of a high pressure cell, that high pressure results from sinking air that sinks and subsides towards the Earth's surface, but also the colder the air becomes, the higher the pressure is going to be. The following high pressure cell, also called an anticyclone, you would be able to identify this on a synoptic weather map with the letter H at the center. However, if the H is missing from the cell, you will be able to pick up that it is a high pressure cell by looking at the values of the isobars. With a high pressure cell, the values of the isobars become higher as they increase towards the center. In simple terms, in a high pressure cell, the highest pressure is found at the center of the cell. In the case of a low pressure cell, air rises away from the Earth's surface, thus reducing the weight at the Earth's surface and creating a lower pressure. The warmer the air becomes, the lower the pressure is going to be. On a synoptic weather map, a low pressure is represented by a capital letter L at the center of the cell. However, if the L has been omitted, you would identify the low pressure cell on the synoptic weather map by looking at the value of the isobars, and these would generally decrease towards the center of the cell. In a low pressure cell, which is also called a cyclone, the lowest pressure is always found at the center of the cell. On a synoptic weather map, isobars, which are lines that connect all places with the same pressure, are used to indicate atmospheric pressure. On the accompanying map, you'll see that there are a number of lines traveling all across the map, and that simply means that wherever that line travels around this map, the pressure is going to be the same. So for example, if one particular line has a value of 1,000, that represents 1,000 hectopascal, and it simply means that wherever that line travels on the map, the air pressure is going to be 1,000 HPA. We use an instrument called the barometer in order to measure air pressure, and it's equally important to remember that the interval, or the isobar interval between consecutive isobars, is 4 hectopascal, and that simply means that if I start with a value of 1,000 on one isobar, when I move to the next one, it's either going to increase or decrease by 4 hectopascal and so forth. So it's important to be able to identify atmospheric pressure by using the isobars on your synoptic weather map, as well as being able to read values and to remember that those values on each of the isobars, they represent a certain amount of hectopascal.